When you're great, they'll find a way to hate. Don't you worry about it. They'll say what you're saying is wrong. They'll spread lies and libel, misinformation, disinformation, all in hopes of smashing your credibility. Such is the case for myself. On my channel, I show you the greatness. I told you, and then I showed you. Eddie Hearn delivers the bad news to Terence "Bud" Crawford. Eddie Hearn has a brand new interview with Fight Hype, and he delivers the crushing blow to Terence Crawford, who has petitioned as the super champion at welterweight to get a Fundora shot. According to Eddie Hearn, a boxing promoter from Great Britain, he does not believe that Terence Crawford will actually get the fight over the PBC fighters, Tim Tszyu or Errol Spence. He believes the fight goes to one of them before it goes to a Terence "Bud" Crawford. Now, surprisingly, or should I say, not so surprising to me, this is exactly what I've said on my channel. And you guys heard my intro at the beginning. People, they throw stones and say, oh, you're hating on Bud. Oh, Terence Crawford, he's making power moves and let him be independent and these types of things. When I make these videos, I don't have a horse in the race. When I make these videos, they are from the heart. You can take it or leave it. Either way, I don't really care because it's not going to change the programming. I'm not going to get on my platform that I've built from the bottom. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now my whole team up in it, right? I started from the bottom. No help. And it's funny because, and this could be a lesson to you guys who are trying to achieve success. Very funny, in the early stages, the humble beginnings, when you are trying to accomplish something, you need help, right? Because you're just starting, you're a novice. You're at the early stages, the inception of something, the origins, if you will, right? And it's funny because no one's there to help you. No one's there to give you advice. No one's there to, encourage and push you through when you have countless sleepless nights, like pulling your hair out, stressing over bills, or, just ultimately wondering how this is going to work. Because success, I'm a strong believer in visualization. You have to visualize things before you manifest them in the physical. So every success I've ever received has come in that fashion. So when it does come, I'm never surprised. Like, I don't overreact because I'm not just buying lotto tickets blindly hoping that I strike it rich. So if that were to happen and you just by chance, these numbers came out and they're the numbers that you picked, I don't do that. I put the work in, so it's never a surprise when the work actually pays off. So I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing on my channel. Stay tuned to the end of the video. I will get into, what Eddie Hearn said. And it's just funny because, again, when you start, there's no one there to help you, give you this advice. And then once I've already, quote unquote, made it, doing well for myself, doing well on the channel, now everybody wants to tell me how to run the channel, tell me what I'm saying is right, what I'm saying is wrong, and, that whole thing. But we're not moved by that. I'm a strong man. I've understood this. I've understood my role. And everything I've said about Terence Crawford stands. And now you have a promoter from the UK. So this is a person who's done very well for himself in terms of Eddie Hearn. His dad owned the business, and he kind of came up that way. And Eddie Hearn has taken over the business, with Rematch Room. So it's not like just somebody's opinion who's not in the business. Like, he's putting on a show with Richardson Hitchens this weekend, right? Make sure you guys check that. So Eddie Hearn in this interview, and I'll get into his quotes in less than 1 minute. Make sure you guys smash the like button. Less than 1 minute, we'll get into Eddie Hearn's quotes. He basically says in layman's terms that Terence Crawford is not going to likely get the fight with Fundora, despite petitioning through the WBO. Now, follow me on my official social medias, Linktree in the description. And this is on my Twitter, @BOXINGEGO. I tweeted, "Bad news for Terence Crawford regarding the Fundora fight," says Eddie Hearn, a thread. This is a direct quote from that interview. Eddie Hearn says, and I quote, "Firstly, is there a rematch clause? Tim Tszyu's team says there is. Samson Lukowicz, which is Fundora's promoter, says there is a verbal one," right? He says, "I can't believe you'd enter a fight 12 days out to save a show as a champion, Tim Tszyu, and not have a rematch clause." So he's saying it would be pretty preposterous for a late switch because Keith Thurman was supposed to be the original opponent. So Eddie Hearn he has a lot of rematch clauses too. Like when he has his champion, his top guys like Anthony Joshua fighting, that's how the Ruiz fight came. That was the same similar situation, very similar. Late replacement to Jarrell Big Baby Miller, who failed a PED test. So they brought in Andy Ruiz, who was a PBC guy, Mexican heavyweight, who had just gotten with the PBC. And that fight, a little bit more notice, 5 weeks versus Tim Tszyu. When Keith Thurman dropped out, it was only like 11 days notice. So I agree with him. You have a fighter like Tim Tszyu who's a champion, and you want that safety net of a rematch clause, more than likely. And he says, so it doesn't really make sense to not have a rematch clause. So I'm presuming they have one. If they don't, regardless of what Samson says, a verbal contract means absolutely nothing. Right? You could say we're going to honor our word. There's no terms, so you can say we're going to honor our word. Make sure you give me 20 million and we're going to honor our word, right? So if I'm Samson now, Samson is very experienced. You're getting your boy Sebastian Fundora a massive payday because I'm not saying he got lucky, but with the cut, he hit the jackpot, which is also what I've said. Tim Tszyu was insanely dialed in and he was winning the fight, and some kind of unfortunate cut hit, like Sebastian Fundora's sharp elbows sliced the top of his head, and he had a hole in his head like a jack-o'-lantern, you know what I mean? Like a pumpkin, smashing pumpkin head, you know what I mean? And then that's when the fight dynamic, the ebb and flow began to shift. So I'm not saying he got lucky. It was fate or whatever. It happened, but that's when the tide shifted, right? So he says he hit the jackpot. So now you're getting the biggest payday. There's money in Australia to do that rematch. Then there's the Spence fight, Errol Spence fight. There's the Crawford fight. What I think will happen, pay attention. What I think will happen, you're talking about the PBC. Crawford is not with the PBC. You guys see that? It says Crawford is not with the PBC. So unless PBC can capture Crawford, they won't do the fight with Fundora versus him. Finally, Eddie Hearn says, what I think you will see is either Fundora against Tim Tszyu in a rematch or Fundora against Spence. As I understand it, Fundora is out 6 to 8 months because of his nose is broken. I have the injury report and video on my channel, right? So maybe Tszyu will fight in the meantime. We got Madrimov there. He's ready, but I don't think you'll see Fundora against Crawford. One of the reasons Samson U-turned a bit is there is money in Australia. We saw Pacquiao fight Jeff Horn there. There's little chance that Tszyu will take a stay busy fight against Madrimov while he waits for Fundora's injured nose to heal. If anything, Tim Tszyu will take a fringe contender to ensure that he doesn't suffer another injury that would delay a fight a rematch with Fundora. I'm comparing the money to Tszyu, not just to Spence and Crawford. He says Crawford and Spence, in my opinion, have similar profiles. Crawford beat Spence, but wherever the money is, that's where that's who Fundora will fight. There is a deceiving amount of money in Australia, and maybe that could be the one. So, of course, these are just the opinions of Eddie Hearn, but these are also very similar to what Boxing Ego told you guys. Now, I have no problem with anybody quoting me, but if you're going to quote me accurately and quote me on things that I actually said. Some people said in my live stream that I stated Errol Spence absolutely gets the fight with Fundora. Never said that. What I did say is that you have 3 fighters all vying for the same fighter, which is new champion Sebastian Fundora. He is out of commission right now. Fundora has to heal because he has a broken nose. 1 champion, 2 belts, 3 fighters that are looking to fight this one guy. So when you're a champion, you could just sit back and wait, and then people come to you. Errol wants it. Crawford petitioned for it, so he wants it. And then you have Tim Tszyu, who wants a rematch. What I did say is this: 2 of the 3 fighters, you see that? 2 of the 3 fighters happen to have an existing partnership / relationship, several fights in with Al Heyman and PBC. The odd man out is Terence "Bud" Crawford, who prefers to remain a free agent, it appears, right? So, like I said before, I could easily see Errol Spence or Fundora rematch with Tim Tszyu taking precedence over a guy like Terence Crawford, because Terence Crawford, he's a great fighter, but this is a business and it got to make sense. It doesn't, to me, make sense to give Crawford the fight. He's not with your organization, so you have no ties to him. You owe him nothing because he doesn't work for you. Like, that's like an employee for McDonald's going to Burger King because McDonald's shorted their check. If you work for McDonald's and your check is short and you worked on this holiday, so you're supposed to get, double time or whatever, you talk to your internal HR. It makes very little sense for a McDonald's employee who is short on their check to go to Burger King or call someone else's HR when it's an internal problem, right? As I've stated on my channel, and you could quote me on this since some of y'all like to quote me, will always be easier to make an in-house fight. Always. Because you have all the chess pieces right there. So Gervonta Davis, Frank Martin, that's always going to be easier than Gervonta versus top-ranked Shakur or Gervonta versus Devin Haney, who is not with the PBC. It's common sense, but common sense ain't so common these days. So Crawford looks like he's up Ish Creek without a paddle because he's the odd man out. He's the black sheep. He has no real seniority with PBC. He doesn't appear that he wants to do a long-term multi-fight deal with PBC, and he doesn't have the positioning, the backing, and the leverage, and the overall clout, if you will, to do what he wants to do, which is to almost operate like a Floyd Mayweather, to almost operate like a Canelo. Payday, you want payday? I know that. You don't have it, sir. Like, you don't have the statistics. Canelo has, I could think of them because I'm that great. He has several fights that have done over 1 million. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., Triple G1, Triple G2. The Floyd Mayweather fight with Canelo did like 2.4 million homes, right? The Canelo Undisputed with Caleb Plant did real close to 1 million, right? It was like 800,000-900,000. So pretty much 1 million, right? Canelo is Canelo. He also has Mexico. He has his own country that backs him. He's bilingual. No, Leroy, I'm bilingual. There's a difference, right? So he has that going for himself. The ability to relate to English-speaking fans, like let's say Mexican American or black or white or whoever, Americans, right? But also talk to his people in Spanish. Crawford doesn't bring these. It is what it is. Great fighter. Now people want to say, oh, but Crawford's more skilled. There's a lot of guys that are skilled. That don't mean that they're going to be a top of the sport. You know, I'm not saying Canelo's the most skilled fighter that's ever lived or whatever, but he's doing well for himself. And whether you like it or not, these are the facts. Canelo Alvarez represents good business. And I told you, I believe that Terence Crawford wants to operate independently like a Canelo Alvarez, but it's not the same. It's like if you have a producer who is a very good producer, but he's not popping. Like he makes great beats, but he wants to move like Dr. Dre. Oh, but Apple gave Dr. Dre this. But here's the thing. Dr. Dre been around since the 80s. Dr. Dre's put on Snoop, Eminem, worked with Tupac. You see what I'm saying? Worked with Nas. He worked with everybody that's a legend. Worked with Jay-Z. You know what I mean? You're not Dr. Dre. It's that simple. You got a producer from Omaha who makes good beats, and he wants Dr. Dre level treatment and deals, and then wants to compare to it. But you haven't done what Dr. Dre has done, and you're not regarded like Dr. Dre is literally top 5 at the very least greatest hip hop producers of all time. And some people even have him number 1. I mean, let me know who you guys think is the number 1 producer in hip hop of all time. So Timbaland's, the Pharrells, the Dr. Dre's, the, Pete Rocks and, Rubens, Premier. You let me know. Rest in peace. Jay Dilla, Jay Dilla, The Alchemist. I mean, there's a lot of great producers, but you guys get it. Let me know who's your top person in terms of hip hop production. But anyway, that's basically what you're dealing with. And it's a business. Now you have Eddie Hearn, who's pretty much echoing everything that I've told you. And here's the thing is we know that Eddie Hearn has a contemptuous relationship with PBC. It's not like he's a PBC worker or that he always says favorable stuff about PBC, because we know that's cap. I mean, this is the same man that said basically PBC will be out of here and out of business, and he's constantly dissing Leonard Ellerby and, people from PBC and saying they don't want to make fights. So it's bad when other people in old media are telling you the same thing that I'm telling you about Crawford, but the Bud Buddies can't see this, right? If anything, Eddie Hearn has, in interviews, he showed a lot more love to Terence Crawford in terms of saying, he's like, oh, Crawford, brilliant, mate. He's a brilliant fighter. 1 more week, mate. And he's saying these niceties to Terence Crawford. He doesn't really say nice things about PBC. So you have to ask yourself, why would Eddie Hearn be saying this, that he thinks Errol or Tszyu gets the Fundora fight, either a rematch with Tszyu or Errol over Crawford? But when I say it, so listen, when you got Eddie Hearn, a white male from the UK with blue eyes and a promoter, and he's saying the exact same thing, nobody's calling him a hater. But when I say it, y'all say I'm hating on Crawford, and somebody left a comment, oh, you're hating on dark-skinned people, all types of stuff. But Eddie Hearn is saying verbatim what I've already told you, and it's a problem. I just find that funny. But But again, when you're great at what you do at your job, you know, comes with the territory. So I find Terence Crawford to be the odd man out, and he has a real uphill battle. Also, he backdoored PBC, in my opinion, by trying to circumvent. Instead of working with them, you're trying to work around them. In business, who's gonna really like that? Like, it's like if you went, I'm trying to think of a quick example, but like basically if you asked for something and then the manager on duty said no, and then you say, all right, and then you feign like you're leaving, and then you come back and speak to the store manager who's above that manager on duty, and then you get your way. You know, that person is going to feel like undermined. Like, man, I had already said, no, we can't do this return. And then you came and talked to my superior and got it returned anyway. So they kind of disrespected you. You get me? You see what I'm saying? They kind of disrespected you because they couldn't get the recourse or whatever they wanted. So they went around you to get what they wanted. That's what Terence Crawford did. That's why I said backdoor. That's backdoor, like kind of snaky behavior. You just probably made a career high payday with them with the Errol Spence fight. You dethroned one of PBC's stars that they've been building up. Fair play. You're a great fighter. You did that. Fair play to you. But then now, instead of doing like, okay, I see how you all operate. The Errol Spence fight was a success. It was the fight that got me the most money and the most looks and the most attention. You know, keep in mind, Terence Crawford, he had a float. He had an Omaha floating parade. I don't recall them doing all that when he beat Mean Machine, when he beat John Molina, right? They didn't do all that in Omaha, but it was a big occasion when the big fish got caught, right? And instead of partnering with these people that did right by you, treated you fair, you know, they didn't treat you like top rank fighter because you were a free agent. The commentary was very fair, the build up. It's not like they showed Errol Spence 90% of the all access and then gave 5 to 10% of camera time to Crawford. So I don't understand his whole aim. And I told you, if he does not partner with the PBC, I think his options become slimmer and slimmer. Again, I'm from the Bay Area, home of the independent hustlers. I'm not anti being independent. I mean, if you look at me, my channel is independent. I don't have no boss. I've never partnered with the MCN. There's some of your favorite channels have or are with MCNs. Look it up. And that's a multi-channel network, right? I've never partnered with anybody. So everything that I do is between me and YouTube/Google, because Google owns YouTube. There's no other hands in the pocket. There's no other representation. I don't have to split the money with nobody. It's between me. The only split I have is YouTube, Google, and me. And they're one company, you know, pretty much under one umbrella. So I respect independence, but it takes more work and some right doings to operate independently and go against the norm, you know, to step out the matrix and do your own thing. And the way Crawford's been branded, his personality, the way he doesn't really conduct many boxing media interviews and stuff like that, I don't see him getting that from PBC, especially when you have lucrative fights in Australia with Tim Tszyu. And you got to give it up to Tim Tszyu. This man on 11 days notice was willing to risk it all. So you could easily argue the backstory that he deserves it. Same thing with Errol Spence. He's a Texan. You could put it in a big venue. Like, for sure, you could charge higher ticket prices in Texas and then put Errol Spence, Tim Tszyu in the AT&T Stadium. Boom, you have a big event. Errol showed you those numbers. He fought Ugas and they did 42,000. He fought Mikey Garcia, they did almost like 50,000, and so on and so forth. So despite one loss to Terence Crawford, Errol Spence has a loyal fan base. I still see it. Go to boxing Twitter, go to X. People are still putting man down, and I can't wait for Big Fish to return. And yeah, I want to see what's next for you, Errol. And people still wearing the shirts. People thought because Crawford beat Errol Spence, it was over for a man. But Errol Spence has proven when you do things the right way for so long, one loss doesn't have to define you and people will still rock with you. So again, where does this leave Terence Crawford? From my perspective, and apparently Eddie Hearn's perspective, it leaves him in a bad spot because it's likely that one of the two PBC fighters gets Fundora well before he does, unless he commits to PBC, which is what I've been telling you for the top